Hello everybody, and today we're going to be unboxing an RTX 2080. Psych, you know why you clicked on the video. We're actually going to be pushing three 4850s to their absolute limits. I'm talking extreme overclocking, voltage mods, custom cooling. So I wondered, since I had three of them just lying around, can they play anything? Can they get any modern game even remotely playable? Because when these cards came out back in 2008, they were pretty powerful. They were the thing to have and debuted at a price tag of $200. And by modern standards, they're e-waste. But what exactly made these cards so good? Well, the 4000 series competed against Nvidia's GeForce 9 and 200 series. When it came to single GPU cards, Nvidia did have the upper hand, with the GTX 280 being the fastest GPU, but AMD's offerings were simply more affordable and offered better price to performance. The 4850 was sort of a middle-of-the-road card and would be the modern equivalent of a 3060 or 3060 Ti. It was based on the RV770 architecture, the same as the 4870 and higher-end 4890. The 4000 series achieved new heights with its release, as variants of the 4850 became the first GPU to come with 2GB of GDDR3 VRAM, and the 4870 was the first card to utilize GDDR5. Our variant, though, is one of the lower-end models, having 512MB of GDDR3 VRAM on the 256-bit memory bus clocked at 993MHz and a core clock of 625MHz. However, those are its stock speeds, and today we're going to be blowing right past that. Now you might be asking yourself, why do you need three of these cards? Well, I pulled these all from old Dell systems, and I don't really know how well they work, but I'm assuming they do. Nowadays, these cards go for about $20 to $30 on eBay, which really isn't much, but they probably have some life left in them, so we're gonna push it to the max. So be sure to leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing, because not everybody can give you this type of quality content. The first thing we gotta do is determine which of these ancient relics is the best, which I'm gonna do by testing them in a few different benchmarks. Actually, I already did this off camera because it's boring, and I figured out that this one labeled 2 is the best using Passmark. I basically did this by testing them as stock to see which ones performed the best, which was not the first one that got a horrible DirectX 9 score, and I also overclocked them as far as they could go to see which one would allow me to push it the furthest. A fun fact about older graphics cards, but they have a lot of potential hidden behind overclocking. Using the dinky little sliders and MSI Afterburner, you can only kick the core up to 700MHz and the memory up to 1200. So instead of that, we're going to be using something called the AMD GPU clock tool. This basically lets us set the core and the memory to whatever we want. So here's 1000 on the core, and can we do like 15,000? Yeah, you can just keep oh my god. So I did a little off-camera testing, and figured out that as of right now, the farthest we can push this graphics card before it goes into a full system lock is an overclock of 800MHz on the core and 1180 on the memory. Now you might be asking yourself, how are you going to push these cards even further? Well, I have a secret weapon. A pencil. A pencil mod is basically just connecting one end of a resistor to the other end of the resistor using the graphite or lead. Because graphite or lead actually have less resistance than the resistor, this allows more voltage to get to the graphics card's core or memory, allowing you to increase the clock rates further. The guide for the voltage mod I'll be using is on Tech Power Up, and I'll put its link in the description if you just so happen to have one of these cards. The resistor I have to get is that one right there. Over that one. So I'm just gonna do a little, I got three of these cards. If it dies, it dies. That looks good, right? Well, I hope so. The last voltage mod we did was for the actual GPU, and the next one we're gonna do is for the memory, which involves this resistor right here, R710, I believe. There we go, yeah. This is how we get more power out of our graphics cards here on J-Nerd Tech Reviews. And that's it for the voltage mod. With two little scrapes of this pencil, we should be able to get a bit more performance out of this card. The next thing I'm gonna do before testing the card again is replacing the thermal paste, because I forgot to do that earlier. After that, I'm gonna finish finalizing the aftermarket cooling solution I've came up with. For this, we're going to be using some good old Arctic MX4. I don't know if it's the best stuff, but it has 4.5 stars on Amazon, so it's probably pretty good. I was also debating making a custom cooler, but by the looks of this really solid copper heatsink, and from the testing I've already done, I don't think it needs a custom cooler, but I do have other plans to improve airflow. And this is how I plan to increase airflow, by strapping down 6 computer fans to a piece of wood and plugging it into the wall. It does seem kind of jerry-rigged, but it works very well and is only kind of deafening. So, without further ado, let's get this assembled. And here it is. It's literally just 6 old computer fans duct taped to a piece of wood, strapped together with duct tape and plugged into an electrical outlet. Here's how it sounds when I turn it on. So there are definitely wires rubbing against the fan somewhere, but it's fine. Before I do that, I'm going to run a stock test in 3D Vantage, and then I'm going to try to overclock it a bit. So let me just max out the fan here to ensure maximum cooling. Let me turn on the jet engines. And let's run the benchmark. We got a score of 7,327, which really isn't good, so let's try to crank that up. Looks like my bootleg copy of Windows 7 finally gave up, so I gotta fix that. And with the power of movie magic, we're back with a fresh install of Windows 7. Now let's see if it all paid off. Yeah, the card was absolutely suffering throughout testing. This is just some of the artifacting that occurred. I found the card's limit to be at 800 MHz on the core and 1280 MHz on the memory. This yielded a total of 8,729 marks in 3D Mark Vantage, placing me at the 279th fastest benchmark for this card. Here we don't use liquid nitrogen or any of that nonsense. We simply flip a can of compressed air upside down and squeeze. Using this strategy and doubling up on pencil lead, I was able to push the core and memory 10 MHz further, but it actually decreased performance, probably due to instability. Also, earlier I was able to get the GPU stable at 825 MHz, but I might have fried it a little bit. But just how much gaming performance can this maxed out 4850 get us in 2022? Well, in 1080p with the low settings, we saw about 70 to 90 frames per second in CSGO. With the same settings, but running the aforementioned overclock, the frame rate was most consistently between 90 and 110 FPS. So if you're looking for something cheap to play CSGO with, this works great. But as a whole, I still call this a success, since we were able to clock the card much further than we did before modifying it, and got a little more performance. But I do recommend subscribing, or even leaving a like, a comment, or joining the Discord server. Either way, have a great day. Adios.